7. Melissa watched from orbit as the signal blinked out, her heart sinking into her stomach. The planetary survey vessel Horizon's Edge had been torn apart by a meteor storm, scattering its crew across the hostile moon's surface. She'd managed to reach an escape shuttle, but Daniel had gone down hard. Command, this is Science Officer Melissa Chen. Survivor beacon has ceased transmission, requesting immediate extraction authorization for surface deployment. Her voice cracked despite her training. The response came in cold, bureaucratic tones. Negative, Officer Chen. Veridian 7 is classified as Extreme Hazard Level 9. Indigenous predator activity makes surface operations unsurvivable. You are ordered to return to the nearest station. Melissa's hands trembled over the controls. Through the viewport, the moon's surface writhed with movement, vast herds of creatures fleeing across crimson plains, always running, never stopping. Veridian 7 was a predator's paradise, a nightmarish ecosystem where the apex hunters grew to impossible sizes and everything else existed in perpetual terror. "He's still alive down there," she whispered. "Officer Chen, acknowledge your orders." She closed the channel. Daniel had learned 3 rules in his first hour on Veridian 7. Stay quiet, stay moving, and never, ever show fear. The creatures here could sense it somehow, not through smell or sound, but something deeper, something primal that made his skin crawl. The crash had broken his leg. He'd splinted it with debris from the pod, fashioned a crude crutch, and started limping through the rust-colored forests. The trees here grew in twisted spirals, their bark hard as metal, their roots forming natural caves and hollows. Everything was running. 6-legged gazelle analogs bounded past him in waves, their eyes rolling white with terror. Smaller creatures, things like squirrels crossed with beetles, chittered and fled through the canopy. Even the plants seemed to shrink from something approaching. Then he heard it, a sound like grinding metal mixed with a lion's roar, echoing through the alien forest. Daniel's blood turned to ice. The predator emerged from between the spiral trees. It stood 4 meters tall at the shoulder, its body covered in overlapping plates of natural armor. 6 legs ending in curved talons. A head that was mostly jaw, filled with teeth like broken glass. Its eyes, too many eyes, locked onto him with ancient, hungry intelligence. Daniel didn't run. He couldn't, not with his leg. Instead, he did something the creature had never encountered before. He stood his ground. The predator paused, confused. Every other creature on this moon fled. Fleeing was the natural order, but this small, fragile thing simply stared back. Daniel raised his arms slowly, making himself larger. He opened his mouth and screamed, not in fear but in challenge. The primal war cry of humanity, the sound his ancestors made when facing cave bears and saber-toothed cats, the roar that said, "I am not prey." The predator took a step back. Something in its primitive brain recognized a fellow apex predator. This wasn't food. This was competition. This was danger. It turned and stalked away, seeking easier prey. Daniel collapsed against a tree, shaking but alive, and in that moment he understood. On Veridian 7, fear was the real killer. The predators here had evolved to hunt fear itself. He just had to become something they feared more. Over the next week, Daniel built his shelter in a cave formed by massive spiral tree roots. But he didn't just build a hiding place. He built a fortress, a monument to human stubbornness and ingenuity. Using salvaged metal from his pod, he constructed sharp spikes around the entrance. He gathered the hardest stones and arranged them as weapons. He found a mineral deposit that burned with intense heat and created fire, something this planet had never seen before, with its high moisture content preventing natural combustion. The predators came, drawn by curiosity, but each time they approached Daniel's shelter they found something new to fear, fire that burned without explanation, the crack of rocks striking armor, The sight of a creature that refused to flee, that instead charged at them with makeshift spears, roaring its defiance. Daniel painted the cave walls with symbols, warnings in a language the predators couldn't read but somehow understood. He lined the approaches with the skulls of smaller creatures, creating an atmosphere of death and danger. He made his shelter into a place that whispered, "Here lives something worse than you." And slowly, impossibly, the predators began to avoid the area. The apex hunters of Viridian 7, creatures that had never known fear in their evolutionary history, learned to give Daniel's cave a wide berth. Other creatures noticed. The prey animals, always seeking refuge, began to graze cautiously near Daniel's shelter. The predators wouldn't come close, creating a safe zone around the human's fortress. It became an oasis of calm in a world of eternal flight. Daniel became a ghost story to the predators of Viridian 7, the strange, small creature that didn't run, the one that commanded fire, the one that looked at apex predators and saw only obstacles to overcome. Melissa's shuttle touched down 3 weeks after the crash. She defied orders, stolen the shuttle, and committed career suicide to attempt a rescue she knew was probably futile. She found Daniel's shelter and stopped, staring in disbelief. The elaborate fortress, the artistic arrangement of deterrence, the small herd of prey animals grazing peacefully nearby, something that should be impossible on this death world. Daniel emerged from the cave, leaner and harder than she remembered, but alive, very much alive. "You came," he said, a smile breaking across his bearded face. "You built a kingdom," she replied, gesturing at the impossible scene around them. Daniel looked back at his shelter, at the sanctuary he'd carved from nightmare. "I learned something here. These predators, they hunt fear. So I became something they'd never encountered before, something that doesn't know how to be prey." As they lifted off, Melissa looked down at the fortress Daniel had built. Already, some of the prey animals had moved into the cave system, claiming the safe haven he'd created. The predators circled at a distance, confused and wary. One human, abandoned by all life, had fundamentally altered the ecosystem of an entire moon. Not through superior strength or weaponry, but through something uniquely human: the refusal to accept the role of victim, the stubborn insistence on survival, the ability to turn terror into defiance. The shelter remained, a monument to humanity's most dangerous trait. We don't just survive impossible situations. We conquer them.